Sex Whisperer here on the podcast world, and my guests today will discuss with me a little more about sex education, what is available out there, and how we can become more aware, open, conscious in our practice, various practice, open up to sex, and find the ways to love ourselves, our bodies, and lovers' bodies outside, like the cliche, beyond, not outside, but beyond the cliche that, we kind of all like take for granted or see on porn sites or, whatever we find that sex knowledge, since there's no such thing as sex ed in school, in the world. Anyway, so thank you for coming, Avril and Maya. So Avril Louise Clark is a sexologist and sex educator. She's from Miami, and she works for the Sex Academy, which is the first academy of sexuality in Spain. It's based in Barcelona, but it provides sex education in cities around Spain. It was founded in 2012, and it gives weekly workshops, and it's officially launching here in Miami in January, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So we will find out a little bit about what the sex curriculum of a sex academy is, what it involves, and why you might want to take some time and take workshops. And then my other guest is Maya for simple, Eurydice. She was born in Bosnia. She was there for the Civil War. She has traveled the world since and graduated from the University of Virginia, and now she's a wife and mom to 3 children here in Miami, in Kendall, where she has also opened a holistic healing place called Maya's Place, and which offers again kind of like workshops and lessons for finding a more evolved relationship with your body. So she's a reiki master, spiritual healer, motivational speaker, all that, and she also published the book Grenades as Lullabies, which is her memoir from her childhood in Bosnia. So welcome.
Thank you.
So my first, something that I always feel it is important to begin with, especially for listeners who are relatively new, is that we're doing this because we do not ever learn about sex at any stage of our lives, except in the sense of forbidden, of no, right?
Yeah.
So we're born innocent, and therefore innocently sexual, and sex is one of the few fundamental needs of our species that haven't changed, no matter how much civilized bullshit we add on to our culture.
Absolutely.
But sex is real. It's been there from the beginning. We need it to keep existing.
Right.
So it's like drinking and eating and going to the bathroom and sleeping. It's one of the most basic needs that we share with all of our animal brothers and sisters. And we have complicated, and we've complicated every gift of the gods, including sex. So the more our mind has gotten into the experience of sex, the more we've messed it up. But if we were to go back to the prelingual state when we were tiny people, tiny new people, we're all that way when we're new to the world, and that was the same 5,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, or 200 years ago, right? So the way that then we were socialized has changed depending on the culture, the era. Sometimes much harder for women. Recently, a little better, but overall, there is a lot of social bondage and social restriction that takes place for reasons that if we all sit down and think about them, dispassionately and just logically, as if it weren't us, but like something else that we were interested in or studying, they would make no sense. So for reasons that make no sense, if you forget about, your like upbringing and God and right and wrong and what people will say and all that other stuff, like were we to remove all that extra.
The subconscious programming that we come up with.
Right. Not so subconscious. The programming. It hits us on our subconscious, yes, because we're so young.
It's there.
But it's like, it's not like it's extreme and like in your face.
Absolutely. And it's just the way how the subconscious is. You think you're that way, but you're not understanding that it is all that influence of everything. How you approach things.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah. So
And so all of us made that transition from being open to being naked, and open to being touching and feeling things and feeling hunger for food, feeling thirsty for water, feeling hunger for intimacy, to learning language.
Yeah.
And then language is the first controlling mechanism. And then learning the moral values, the sign, the signifiers that go with the signs, which are the words. And all of our early education, so let's say from age 2, I guess, until, most formative, until age like 5 or 6, but then everything after that as well has been based on no. Don't do that, don't, sit with your legs crossed, don't open your legs, don't, whatever, don't, it's not ladylike, it's not, godly, it's not proper, it's shameful, you will be shunned. So even the fact that we are here, 3 women,
Talking about sex.
right, talking about sex, working in fields related to sex, means that we individually, each one of us, has had to overcome that.
Definitely.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We should have.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're having sex. We're talking about sex.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that that's what we do all day long. But there are so many misconceptions because of the lack of education and also a voice.
Exactly.
So the reason for the podcast, is that I feel that what I call speaking sex is a language for sexuality that we haven't developed yet, and finding words and familiarity with the experience of discussing what we do sexually with each other is the first step to the actual sexual revolution.
Definitely.
Because what happened, with the early, feminists, they did so much for us. They found the clitoris for us. They did so much. They told us we could actually hope to get equal pay. It's like a huge amount of progress that has been made, but on the one-to-one intimate level, at the level of what happens after the seduction, after the foreplay, after the verbal consent, which we just recently achieved thanks to Me Too.
Thank God.
And then what happens when the lights go out? That is still no man's land. So, right. And I feel that, in a way, because it's something that the patriarchy, the system, the culture, the society has not over-regulated like everything else, it's actually prime for us to take it over and say, okay, this is how we should be talking, we're naked and exposed, or feeling exposed, and having sex, and we don't need to pretend like we're taken over by some animal nature and can't speak, can only moan, and have to continue insanely passionately until one or both orgasm.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, hopefully both orgasm, unless one gives up and fakes it, and we know which gender that would be. women like work a tiny bit. It's not even work. It should be extreme pleasure, right?
Yes.
But still, we don't think that. We think what we do is pleasing others, and that's like right.
Yeah.
But we feel we don't deserve to, to like be pleased. And I don't know, the fact that so many women still fake orgasms is criminal, but they do. We do. I mean, I don't, but we do as women.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge issue in itself, right? I think it also comes down to, as what you were saying, the point of this podcast is to open up that communication.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find the words. We need to have open communication in the bedroom, outside the bedroom, in a workshop, in a class. We need to make it more normalized to talk about sex. Because if we're able to sit here on this couch today and talk about sex and use the word clitoris, use the word orgasm, pleasure, we're going to be more likely to be able to use it in the bedroom too with our partners. I mean, I don't like to use the term in the bedroom. I think you can do it wherever you want, right? But
well, in the proverbial bedroom.
yeah. On the couch, in the car,
on the kitchen table.
Just opens up that floodgate, right? It's so liberating to be able to talk about sex, even just with a friend or a partner or your family, your children.
And again, our fear is, I think that this comes back to like the reason the patriarchy has controlled women for so many thousands of years, which is, women are like the sex gender, right? Women have this magic of giving birth, men don't. And so how do we like, somehow control this ineffable, uncontrollable, superhuman gift.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the ways is to, there's been myriad ways, the language we speak, the laws, the ways we think are all geared in that direction, right? To in a sense, like, protect civilization from sex. But especially in the sexual practice, the way that this is presented is when you're sexual, you're not you. You're like taken over by like the instinct, the lowly instinct, the lowly animal side that like can't code or can't use the ATM, whatever. I don't know. So that's like the split. So it's like our like mind that has achieved so much, like this fucking Condo Canyon on a fake beach that the US Corps of Engineers created. But and then like the lowly vagina, right? That just wants to like have a good time and have fun and maybe make babies.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing because I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is just so much deeper than just the word sex. Because what happens is that intimacy is we don't speak to each other anymore in general about anything.
Right.
So what a better better subject than like, okay, let's start with sex. And the thing about it, I think, is just vulnerability point of view.
Right, exactly.
That nobody wants to open up and just go with it. And yet that is the liberating. That's the liberation of you. Because it's not only in the bedroom. Couples don't speak to each other in general. And it's just, I feel it's connected to everything. They're not energetically connecting with, discussing anything. There's things open to assumptions, there are things open to, and nobody's communicating. Of course people are not going to get along. Of course you're not going to come because you know what, maybe you need to go to the left a little bit. Maybe you like to watch a little porn. Maybe you like to see
Can I
something.
say something?
And
It's always to the left.
so is mine, and I'm glad that we talked. To open this, and of course, I'm from Europe, so you're talking about naked. I mean, I grew up watching my uncles and moms and dads in a nudist beach all day long.
Yeah,
That was okay.
Yeah.
Like, what's the problem? You
Yeah.
have it, I have it. But it's this, the control aspect of it. And I think it's so important what you're doing to understand that this is not only about sex. This is about just us in general evolving and being more connected to ourselves and our partners and our friends and everybody else because we just don't communicate because of supposedly
We don't communicate, and it's all fear-based.
it's fear-based, being vulnerable. Okay, so understanding that your energy cannot be affected unless you allow it to be affected.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it all goes down to that, you know. So I think it's very important that we're saying this and saying yes. I like it to the left. That's
one of my, I have like 3 goals for this podcast and this, general kind of movement. And one is exactly that, to become more and more comfortable just speaking about what you like sexually, especially when you're in it. Like not with your girlfriends, over a glass of wine, but when you're in it, naked and having it, being able to make that transition and go back to like sober state, cognizant state, and speak, and then go back to sexual state, and not really even, I put it back now, because that's how we think of it, the same way that the language tells us, like the body's it, I am I, my body's it, but in fact, this is all I, right? So the sex and when the thinking about it and speaking should all be one, but it's harder to explain because that's not how we're wired. The whole setup is not. So one goal is speaking sex, and I suggest that people could just say you want to speak sex, like introduce it this way. Let's speak sex, and that is a mark. The way like in kink or in Eurydice, they have like code word.
Right. The little code word.
Yes.
And the second one, the second goal is to understand that our like identity, our sense of who we are in the world, should have nothing to do with our sexual practice. With what we do, alone with a partner for fun.
Absolutely.
Right.
But that's exactly where the confusion comes, right? So, like you may like someone, and you want to say, if you're interested in me, like I'd like to have sex with you, but you don't, because you feel like if the answer is no, it's a rejection of all of you.
All of you.
Right.
That's exactly what I mentioned. It's like whatever have to do with your value, with your system, with your energetic. And that's because the society has tied all those things in order to be able to control, the grand scheme of things of the value. So the more we are valuable, you feel inferior, the more things we're going to try to do to enhance other things.
Yeah.
And that's, thank you. Yes.
It's like it becomes a huge, not just moral judgment, but a huge judgment of your place in the world.
Yeah, put those 2 things together.
It makes no sense. But even like, okay, another example. You're having sex with a guy and like he loses his heart on, and it should be so simple. But it's not, because
Such a
this
big
whole
thing.
market
Yeah,
is
everything.
involved.
Yes.
And then you don't want to like say things
You don't want to
because
offend
you don't
anyone.
you feel like you have to fight him.
Yeah. Well, I think
Why
also.
the fuck would that be offensive though?
Yeah, I think the idea, of course, when we bring it back to like men versus women in the bedroom, men are seen as the more sexual ones, right? The ones that are going to get the pleasure, they're the ones that are most likely going to have the orgasm. So when they are challenged with something like erectile dysfunction or difficulties, it's like emasculating to them, right? I feel like we're always protecting the man in the bedroom.
Oh yeah, we're always protecting.
We can't say, okay, like let's figure this out. Let's do something about this, or
have a break,
switch to oral sex, something
There
like
are
that.
hundreds of things you can say, but we don't because we're afraid we're going to hurt their feelings
Exactly.
and make it worse.
There's so many.
Here's another thing that happens. So, and because I'm very open, obviously, as you can tell, but also what happens is that, oh my God, okay, so now you lost your heart on, oh my God, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Think about that. So now we're going into this whole circle of just now we have, I'm not attractive enough, I guess and there's so many different things, and we're just completely complicated, like you said at the beginning, completely took it out of another realm of anything to do with anything, and here we are, and we're just unhappy with all of it. So it's incredible how we need to just,
And that's what we call spectatoring, right? That idea that we are so detached to the experience of sex while we're even having it. So, for example, those thoughts that come into your mind, like, am I not attractive enough when things are going wrong? Do I look okay? What is this position? You're worried about the other partner. We are not in the moment during the sex. But we're having that. We are having almost like an out-of-body experience, right? We are, we're worried so much about all these thoughts that are going through our mind that we're not even paying attention to the fact that we're in the middle of a sexual experience. Mindfulness,
yeah, but that's because we're not integrated. That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You know, between our thinking, feeling, you know, cognizant, mind, soul, whatever, and then the poor body that, you know, you know, we've been taught that it's just this, you know, we're stuck with it.
It's not us.
Yeah. So self-integrating and becoming whole and understanding that, you know, you are your vagina and, you know, whatever else, all of it.
Your everything is yours.
Instead of the compartmentalizing, you know, that happens in our mind, that is super healing. But yeah, to go back to that second goal, it's really important to like be conscious, basically, all the time, in order to rewire the way we function sexually. Be conscious as much as we can of the tendency to conflate, you know, sexual activity with sense value, sense worth, you know, overall identity, all of that, you know. If we could like separate the two, you know, like the way that, you know, whether or not I bike well, or whether or not I drive well, or whether or not I'm a good swimmer, or I don't know, I mean, you know, how many languages I speak, or all that stuff, doesn't really, you know, shame me. It doesn't affect my overall sense of myself in the world, right? So why should, you know, whether I like it like vaginally or anally, or I like to like get whipped, or, you know, I come 10 times, or I can't come one way or another, or I'm afraid of something sexually, and why does that have to do with the rest of who I am, not the rest of who I am as a person in the world?
Absolutely.
Nothing. And also all of that changes, right? So the same way that like we change what we like to eat, we change our tastes in music, you know, we change our tastes in sex. And again, none of that should have to do with our sense of identity. Like, you know, the food you eat, I mean, unless you're like fanatic, extremely fanatic, you know, your food choices don't affect who you are in the world.
Right.
You know, your movie choices don't affect who you are in the world, right?
We're constantly evolving.
It's only sex that sex we've taken it, put it in that category all its own, and it affects so much of, you know, of our judgment. It's all about judgment, you know. So if we could divorce it from judgment, that's the freedom right there.
That's exactly what the best thing. This is why I open my plates, because a lot of things that I see on a continuous basis is just shame based on judgment.
Right.
And if we, like you said, divorce it, that is really the starting of the freedom, because every time there's judgment involved, you automatically want to enhance that judgment. And every time you judge, you enhance. It doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to judge it, and you always want to enhance it. So people don't understand, they get caught up in this hamster wheel of judgment and enhancement, instead of just being and allowing it to be, whatever that is, and understanding to have that balance. And that happens with everything in general. It's this continuous, and the brain is going to want to take you that way if you allow it. If you just sit back and say, wait a minute, I don't need to be anything, let me just be me. And that's how in turn all of your body energy starts being itself. That's why the minute you start thinking about crap, let's say if you're going to have sex, of course it's not going to be good enough. Just be. And allow the moment, allow just being, understanding it is what it is, and allow that to be exactly how it is, without judgment, divorcing the
Right. Because I believe that there's two approaches to everything in life, right? I think it's either through fear or through love. And you know, with sex, it doesn't have to be you love that partner. I don't think that, you know, sex could be anything. It doesn't have to be with love. It can be a one night stand. It can be something of passion. It can be something mind-filled instead of mind-full, right? But if you leave that,
get rid of fear. I mean, put love aside for a second, because it's an overused word, especially in America today, like post-New Age. I'm so over love. But we women kind of are good at loving.
Self-love,
Sometimes better
not
than,
so much.
than we should be. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we could, everyone before us, because we're,
The caretaking.
we know how to be mothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, fear, like being able to let go of fear in everything that we do. Can you imagine?
Ooh.
We've
Yeah,
so
stop.
much of it, honestly. And I see a lot of my clients, I don't know if you do as well in your business, and I'm sure, when you're painting, like, when you're like, are you thinking about composing? No, you paint, you do it, you're just, same thing, so I've seen that in my clients, a lot of people, they're like, yeah, it's gonna be there, but you can control it and say, no, not today, fear, not today, I choose not to, and not to make decisions on that. You see, I've seen just incredible. And the beautiful thing about it is that there is enough love, there's enough abundance, there's enough everything for everybody. You are the one who's holding yourself back, and fear is the poison.
Exactly.
It's the recipe for that.
Right.
And most of the times when you go ahead and you do things anyways that scare you, it's always so much better than you think. I don't know how many times at the beginning when I was doing workshops, I was so scared. At the end, I would always be like, this is so great. It was so great. Even just meeting one person that you were supposed to meet or coming here today, you might be scared. And then in the end, you realize, oh, it wasn't that bad. I did it. So it's like, why does fear hold us back from so much, including in our sex life, communication, things like that? And nothing bad's gonna come from it. Not as bad as you make up in your mind, right? We are all here all the time. And if we just communicate, positive sexual communication, of course.
Yeah.
And fuck it.
Yeah.
We got this.
Well, I have a meditation I do, which I want to share. It's a general meditation, but it helps, I guess, I think it helps with sex as well. And I ask myself, who's thinking that thought? When I have thoughts that would come from fear or create anxiety or whatever, I just stop and say, who's thinking that thought? And it's not me. It's never me. It's never like, my soul or my essence. It's not. It's the outer world.
Correct.
It's not my thought.
Yeah.
It's never that. I always am so happy you mentioned that. It's never that, because I do a lot of hypnosis and all of that, and I teach that a lot, which I mentioned earlier. It's subconscious programming. So you are programmed to look at things a certain way, and what happens is that within that program, that you start allowing other things, influences to come. So those voices are most of the time not yours, okay? Your soul does not want conflict. Your soul does not want any of those. What it is that what we need to do is, like you said, through meditation or just mindful timing, sit back and understand and separate those two. And a lot of times you'll hear it, it's your mom, it's somebody else, or something, and really is that, but you integrated that as you. So now, because you think it's you, now we have to, act that way and think that way. So yes, it is exactly that. It's subconscious, programming with outside influences that, of course, contribute to that because you're taking it, right? So, and that's, once you learn to do this, and this is the most important part where I see the most change in all my clients, is when they're able to be like, take a minute, is this me or is this some subconscious programming that I've acquired? And then a lot of times they're like, holy shit, now this is coming from, wait a minute, okay, now I can kind of step back and maybe do things differently, think about it differently. It's taking that minute in meditation, taking that minute of being just, wait a minute, which voice is this? Okay.
That's really interesting because I've always heard about the voice in your head, but I've never thought about it as being different voices. Like you were saying, society, my mom, things like that. I've heard of it, being able to separate yourself from those voices, but never that it could be different ones.
There's definitely, for sure,
That's
different ones.
Interesting.
And that's how we knows that a lot of times it's just in mindful thinking. We find out that we're like, oh my god, that's exactly.
Right.
But it's so integrated in you, you're not thinking that's, but you can't. There is.
The basic work, and it's very simple, is to reprogram.
Yes.
Yes. Rewire the neural pathways.
Yes.
And the way to do it is to expose ourselves to different options. So the main reason to take the workshops and do sessions, study, learn, practice, take hypnosis, all of that, is to experience in safe space this different thing that otherwise we would be afraid of because it's so unknown.
Correct.
So when you first experience it in a safe way, that you know it's a controlled environment, it's not going to be just like you and another, naked
Right.
coming at you. Then, you feel like you overcome that fear of, what you don't know, and you realize how simple it is, and then it's much easier to just, actually practice it in your sexual life.
Definitely.
But it's important to remember that, our brain has formed our way of handling things in order to protect us, and it's very arbitrary because it was set up when we were super young. So, something might have felt as a rejection in our childhood, and then we decided that if we avoid it at all costs, we won't be hurt again.
Right, yeah.
So there's no logic. It doesn't apply anymore in your 30s.
Correct. But we hold on to it because we don't know anything else. So that's something that
that's the last thing that worked.
Correct. Because that's it. One thing now.
Yeah.
I always tell people, you're not in a survival mode anymore.
Yeah,
Start
exactly.
living.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
like that.
you're that's not serving you any longer. Let's start something else and think about it differently. And we're able to. We're literally computers that can recode or reprogram. It's perspective. This is why so many people can look at the same piece of art, the same thing, and you love it, like it, hate it. But what is it? Which one is it? They're all right because it's their perspective. So you can always change that for your improvement, for your empowerment. And that's the beauty of people getting there, understanding that,
It takes practice though.
Exactly.
Saying the rewiring, it takes practice.
It takes practice.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Like to take mindfulness. It takes commitment to yourself, to your time, and then it leads to right. So the rewiring that you were talking about. So when we do that rewiring, actually we're able to reduce the amount of cortisol in our brain, right? So cortisol is what's created when what we think of as stress, right? And evolutionarily speaking, is that a word? Is that okay. If we have so much cortisol going on, so much stress, like if we're running and a saber-tooth tiger is chasing after us, right? What's the last thing you're thinking about? Is your sexual side. Your blood is all rushing towards your brain. All you're thinking about is survival mode, like he talks about survival mode. And we don't leave that time for our sexual side anymore. If we're always up here, stressed, and this, saber-tooth tiger is not a saber-tooth tiger anymore. It's your job, it's your family, it's your finances, it's your car issues. It's all about that rewiring and being in the moment. But it doesn't happen right away. You have to work on it little by little. You could be brushing your hair in the morning, brushing your teeth, driving to work. You start to just say, okay, instead of already being in the office, I'm going to choose to be here right now.
I'm going to choose to listen to Speak Sex podcast.
Yes.
Educate yourself.
It's lovely to work in here and these women. Talk about it literally.
Yes.
Anyway, so how do you practice, practically? I'm asking for, practical examples.
Like a mindful sex.
Practice, yes.
Right. So an imperfect example would be something that we call maintenance sex, which I think we need another word for it. So if anyone out there can think of another word for maintenance sex, I'd love to know. But setting aside time for your erotic self, right? This could be with you or with a partner. It could be 2 to 3 hours on a Friday night from 8 to 11 o'clock, 8 to 10 o'clock, whenever you want. And to just have that time to really make that your erotic time. If you're alone, you don't have a partner, rub lotion on your body, spend that time together with yourself. Masturbation, buy toys for yourself, maybe dress up in lingerie, whatever makes you feel sexy and in the moment. Also doing simple body scans, right? Laying down, focusing in on the room that you're in, wherever you're going to be having sex, right? And then with a partner, of course, you can do the same thing. You can set that time aside, phones outside, out of the room, no distractions. So then you really have
What
to
about mindful sex in the sense of, taking a few minutes first to put yourself in, meditative space,
Yeah.
breath work,
Breath work.
kind of like clean up and detox before you go into sex space.
I think it's
Yeah.
extremely important.
Body scan could be good, but then also, the typical body scans is when you start, you start from your toe or your head down, and you go, you become aware of every single body part. But normally we'll go up our legs, we skip our genitals, right? We keep going up. So actually, including your genitals into that body scan, your anus, your vagina, everything. So you start to zone in on those parts that we normally choose or not choose to ignore, right?
I think that's very important. What you mentioned, I think putting mindfulness in general, but yes, it's what happens is that a lot of times even if we set aside some of the erotic time or whatever it is, we're going in like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this tomorrow. Like, even if you're whatever you're doing, your mind is there. So I agree that I feel like, scanning your body, but sitting there going, okay, great, yes, I have to do this and this and this. Sure, yeah, I'm giving you the 5 minutes. Now, thank you very much for the next 2 hours. I shall be here. Breath work, yes. Mindfulness, or just breathing, or just getting yourself start thinking about different chakras. There's going to be 5-minute meditation can really do a huge change. I've noticed that huge change in that, because even if you are, and your mind it wants to go places, even if you're in the middle of doing stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, call my mother or whatever, and you're like, why am I thinking about this? This is crazy.
Well, what is orgasm? Orgasm, in my opinion, is sustaining focus.
Right.
So you're meditating. That's exactly what you're meditating.
It's the highest form of meditation,
Right.
because it's when you're not thinking about anything, you're experiencing the orgasm.
Exactly.
And the coolest part is another thing about having the mindful sex, right, is it's no goal sex. So you go into it thinking, we might not even have an orgasm, because most of the time when we have sex, what do? We do it.
Push.
It's all hot here.
It's goal-oriented.
Right.
Expectations.
So goal-oriented. It's
Right.
So there's
and it's not, and it's goal-oriented, I mean, in the heteronormative world,
Yes.
it's goal-oriented for the guy to come, so unless the male practices some sort of like, again, meditation, self-control, the moment he comes, even if she has come or even if he makes it come after orally, a woman is like wired so she can have 10, 20, basically endless orgasms. Also, a woman can have like 7 different types of orgasms, but you need time, and if your focus, if the couple's focus is on the guy ejaculating, and then he falls asleep, actually, like the traditional sex is not successful. It's much better to be open-minded and not think about coming and try new things. But you can't try new things unless you talk about it.
Right.
Otherwise, you just do the same thing over and over that worked, and maybe it works, but it works the same way. And what happens after 1,000 times?
Yeah, you gotta switch it up.
Yeah. You have to be able to speak and say, hold on, let's take a break. Can I wear this? Can we do this? Change it up without feeling, oh my God, we're gonna lose the feel, the high, and he's gonna lose his heart on, or I don't know, I'll dry up or something, and then we will be out of that, place. So I might as well skip it and just go through it.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel that meditation, a meditation practice is good for your sexual practice, because I used to do meditation where I would sit and stare at the flame.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Right, for me it was nice.
Visual, it depends,
Right.
fire is
what
one of
it's
the elements, absolutely.
Exactly.
So, and I that's when it came to me, it just came to me, I was trying to not be thinking of anything at all.
It happens.
But it came to me that that's how I am when I have sex, and so then when I was in sex space, I kind of noticed that focus. And it's a very similar, it's kind of like an inward thing. You forget who you are, you forget your whether you're a mom, or whether you're a wife, or whether you're a daughter, or whether you're a dog owner, or
Your identity.
right, your
Yeah,
taxes, right? So it's a very similar kind of like third eye and G-spot or clit or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a very similar, intense focus, and you sustain it for a long time, much longer than you do in other activities, right? And so that's the same thing that happens in meditation. That's what you're trying to sustain that without allowing,
Outside influence.
yeah, exactly. So our place of orgasm comes from that same focus, which for me as a creative is also the focus that I like to find in order to create, as an artist,
Exactly.
right, or a writer, you go into that space, that internal, like,
Your soul, your energy,
Right.
instead of all the, learned things, it's that.
Exactly. So, and that's one of the beautiful things about, sex, if you don't do it simply for sport.
Recreationally.
Yeah. Recreation is good too, but
Yeah.
So mindfulness, and then the other reason to take workshops is to vary your sex life, right?
Oh yeah.
So what do you teach? Give us a little bit of the curriculum.
So I'm going to speak about
Sex Academy.
Sex Academy as a whole, right? So we're extremely sex positive academy. We always create very inclusive environments. Like you said, it all starts with communication. So we want to create a space where everyone feels welcome to talk about what they want. And some of our topics have been, we really don't hold back. We do workshops on finding your G-spot, learning how to squirt, right? All about squirting. It could be, we do ones for men as well, ones for women.
Men who squirt?
Not men who squirt, but men who are interested in the topic of
Oh,
squirting.
Getting the woman to squirt.
Oh yeah, which is, I think, probably the number one question I get when I
Well, you
talk.
have to tell us. I'm a squirter, so I'm
Okay.
So you should give us a few examples. But what else?
So we have, we also have one on orgasms, where we talk about the different types of orgasms. We have one even for parents, so how and when to talk to your children about sex,
That's wonderful.
which is important.
Yes, huge.
Yeah, we, Sex Academy, I do the mindful sex one. I also have one about dope sex, which is about cannabis and your sex life. This is THC and CBD. And I give those in cannabis associations across Spain. And then, gosh, I can't even
So
think.
what's your
We've
spiel
so
of cannabis and sex?
What's my thing?
Yeah, the spiel. Like a little cookie.
A little picky, alright. So, cannabis can be seen as kind of like a little aphrodisiac, right? It's been mentioned in Asian tantric texts before. But for me, I think in the modern day, cannabis is now it's like the modern alcohol, right? We're going through it right now where it's becoming more and more normalized. And I think a lot of people are seeing CBD everywhere, they're seeing THC everywhere, they don't know the difference, they don't know the legality of it. So I basically talk about using topicals, using all different sorts of things. That could be a CBD infused lubricant, smoking flowers, any kind of way. Even suppositories, right? So I talk about how your body is affected by the use of cannabis.
How is it affected sexually by the use of cannabis?
Sexually.
It's not the same for everyone, right?
No.
Okay.
No. So it depends what you're looking for, right? So maybe it's someone who deals with performance anxiety. So CBD could be helpful for that, for calming you down, bringing you in the moment. Also, you can use it topically. And so people might be aware of when you would smoke weed and your eyes would get bloodshot red, right? It helps the blood flow. So if you apply that topically, let's say you apply it vaginally, right?
Yeah, quite a few of those.
You have an increase in blood flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, so then you're more likely to achieve an orgasm. Also, if you are dealing with anxiety and it helps you calm down, you're also going to be more likely to achieve an orgasm. Also, I think for some people it can be kind of like a fun event to do instead of having a cocktail before sex, smoking with your partner. It can be a little bit of a ritual.
Yeah, it's very common.
So explore all those topics.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the hope is that will become like a regular education instead of like an exotic.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
it takes people a long time to actually take these classes or coaching sessions or whatever.
Yeah.
So you go through your teenage years, which are the most complicated sexually. You have like brand new sexual bodies, but your mind isn't fully developed. You don't know what to do with them, but they're there. You want to use them. Your hormones,
Correct.
hormones are there,
Yes,
but like your prefrontal lobe isn't formed, so it's just a complete mess, and you do your best.
It's a
You
mess.
do like what your friends tell you to do.
or what porn tells you to do.
The boys do the porn, the girls do the friends.
That's
Right?
And I think what you mentioned about cannabis, I think it's ultimately what it does. It goes back to meditation. It literally zones you out of that. Everything else that's happening, so you can actually focus on the feeling of it, which is why most
personally I recommend more like the loops or and the reason is that I think it's important for us slowly to learn how to have sober sex.
Correct. Yes.
So a lot of the trouble, so speaking sex for me is part of that.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Because what happens is because we have such a difficult time with it, we tend to get drunk or get high, but then we're not present.
This disconnect.
And also what happens when you're not present is it's much more likely to misunderstand one another. And then you have sexual assault, or you get super drunk and then you lose agency, or super high and you can lose agency. So it especially as feminist women now, but for everyone, if we learn slowly to have sober sex, but not only with our partner of 10 years, with a new person.
With the new, can you imagine? Yes. You don't want to take that edge off, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to take, there should be an edge.
There should be.
So the more you practice that, I feel, it's important, and it's also important because then you can communicate more clearly, verbally.
Right.
So it's less likely for the guy to hear no and think it means yes.
Correct.
Or it's less likely to complicate, all that, and get into date rape, for example.
Consent is definitely something.
Or drink or eat stuff, that you're given.
Yeah.
That date rape doesn't happen. If you're more comfortable with words and kind of lucid, then sexual assault doesn't happen. Because if the guy is saying something about work or whatever people do, but then his hand is up your skirt, and you have a facility with the language of sex, and you also are sober enough to not kind of giggle and hope things will get better.
Go away,
Then you can speak up and not feel that you're offending him or offending yourself, or just speak up from a place of comfort.
Right.
And say, take your hand out. I'm not comfortable with this. Are we entering sex space? Are you proposing to me?
Use your words.
Use the words.
Yes.
Take your hands off. Use
Yes.
the words, and I'll tell you yes or no, or how I
Exactly.
feel, or we can talk
Exactly.
about it. And and then learn how to incorporate kindness to say no, right? So no doesn't sound like the way we're used to it. But all of that requires a familiarity and a comfort with the language and some capacity for being sober.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely something that's very clear. Is
100%.
nothing is an excuse to be
100%.
for non-consensual sex. Not even marijuana, not a cocktail, nothing.
Exactly.
Even if you're sober, there's some people who just they don't know the rules. Let's hypothetically say that guy reaching up a girl's skirt. I think it all starts with sex education. If we have these conversations as children, and we give this education at schools or at workshops or wherever, then these things are less likely going to happen because people don't know how to use their words to ask for
In sexual context,
in sexual context.
And then, the girl doesn't know if she should be flattered or offended.
Yep.
In retrospect, it's easy to know because you know how you feel about it, and 99.9% chances are you feel shit.
Oh
about
yeah,
it.
exactly.
So it's important to like agree on it and remember it in advance. That however awkward it feels
Yeah.
in the present moment, if it's something that you're not clear about and you don't know how to feel about it, you're only gonna feel much worse
Definitely.
about it later.
Yeah.
You should just turn it into a no and stop it.
We can't let someone else's inappropriate actions make you later feel bad about yourself.
Right.
It wasn't what you did.
And
You didn't do
we
it.
can't let men's desire, like unilateral, one-sided desire,
Yeah.
be the determining factor.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that has to be for sure. I was thinking more. We were talking about once you're already in the process. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
Like the only reason I was saying that is because I deal with a lot of middle-aged to later, and they're just having a hard time exploring their sexuality, being married or not. Especially when they're married for 20 years. It's because they're continuously here, like you said. So it's almost like with maybe the help, and I'm not certainly encouraging it one way or another. I feel like whatever works for you works for you. But yes, like more. In order to show them that it's possible, sometimes they need to have that like, wait a minute, I'm not thinking or anything, it's possible to feel this way and I can naturally achieve it, but sometimes it's so hard when they're here, and I'm telling you, a lot of people out there that come see me are flight or fight all day long. I mean, it's incredible how stressed they are, how much they feel they have on their plate. Certainly they're not going to have sex, they're not even want to have sex, which is usually what ends up happening with a lot of my women. They're like, sex, whatever, that's like the last thing on my mind. Why? Because there's just so much going on here and they literally don't know how. So it's almost like giving them a little medicine of saying, hey, this is what it feels like when you're just not thinking about it. And guess what? Tomorrow you still go back and you do your thing and everything goes back to normal, you didn't miss anything. So it's almost like giving them like a aha moment, like, okay, wait a minute, it's possible. Because I'm telling you, I feel most people out there, most women that I see are like, they've forgotten that it even exists, that you can just just
Well, that's the other side. Unfortunately, like feminism has not helped us the way that it was supposed to.
correct.
So yes, we are we're able to like have bank accounts, which women couldn't like a generation or two ago, and jobs, but we don't share the housework with the husband or partner if there is one, and the joy and burden, but the extra work of raising a child or children is on us.
Absolutely.
So joining the workforce has just created this huge amount of stress because you still want to put your kids first and you still love your kids more than yourself, because that's like how we that's nature. Right, that's the hormones. Done. But then you feel like you have to keep your job and you want to do as well as you can in your job, and then you have a household and errands and shopping and food, cooking. It's just so much, and then of course you lose connection with your body and the pleasure because you think that all of this should be on you. And I feel like I feel that being a mother is the most extraordinary and difficult work anyone can do. Yes. And it should be rewarded. So I feel that taking like the Andrew Young idea, I feel that women who are mothers, unless they are married to like millionaires or something, should all get a mother dividend. They should have a great salary that is for you being a mom. So if you're not like completely married to your work or your career and you can take the time to be a mother, the government pays you like $2,000, whatever, something average a month. So you can do this with honor and dignity.
Right.
And what's more valuable to our world than the next generation?
I agree.
Definitely.
So to me, like instead of saying, okay, pre-K for everyone, and sure, that'd be great, but why? Why are we trying to make women into men? We're trying to rob a women of their womanhood.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And make them into more fake men wearing these fucking like pantsuits like Hillary. What is this bullshit?
It breeds revenue.
Hiding our feminine power you cannot use the tools of the master to take down the master.
I
So
agree.
by becoming fake men who will always be underpaid, we
Yeah.
will never put an end to patriarchy.
Right.
I really feel, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, a lot of people don't understand this, but do I feel feminist? Not so much for me, but I feel like that's taken to another level where, why are we trying to be like men? Wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we continue, like you said? And then this is what's happening. So I don't feel like we should push this feminism to another level of being, no, we are different. Men are different than women, and we have our beautiful feminine side, and we should really honor it, which takes a lot of time and practice and honor to do. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is important. Because it is, now we're men and women. It's time for that. I mean, literally.
Right.
Being a good mom takes time, as you know.
Extremely a lot of time. I mean, I was lucky enough to always be self-employed, and I've taken 2 years with my babies.
That's
So
great.
it's always been, I was fortunate enough. A lot of people are not to have the time. They have to go back to work after 2 or 3 months, which sucks.
And it's unpaid
And
leave
it's
in America,
literally,
right?
they probably.
Unpaid.
It's
Okay.
$5 a
It is
day, and America
terrible.
that unpaid leave. It's like, come on.
I was, fortunate enough because I had my own companies always that I was able to do this, and it was the most honorable time of my life, and enjoying being a mom and
Yeah.
being there, and being sleepless nights and all that, and enjoying the raising of my children. So 1,000%.
Like I remember there was this little scandal, feminist scandal, because Hillary was interviewed during the last campaign, so in 2016, by a very famous black feminist, I don't know if you name her,
Gotcha.
who put the question to her. It was at the YMCA, and she kind of put the question as a criticism, and she said, on your Twitter handle, why do you have mother first and then like Secretary of State or First Lady? Your husband has president first. He doesn't even mention being a father. And it ended up with Hillary like apologizing about it. Like she started off defending it, but it was such a criticism. And I feel that as a feminist, being a mom and being a single mom has by far been the hardest thing I've ever done. It's much more work than writing a book or 3 books.
Absolutely.
It's much more work than making money, selling, dealing.
I agree.
Right. So yes, put mother first. But what we're doing is like instead of adjusting ourselves to fit into male standards and patriarchy's standards, and that whole like lean bullshit. No,
We're
we
presenting
are the
ourselves.
center.
Yes.
We are the center of everything. We as mothers, when we mother, we are the center of this whole thing. The rest is just phallic show-offs. Everything around us, like the brands, the Prada bags,
Everything.
or whatever it is that we want to have, the fancy cars, are just peacocks, are just the boys showing off their feathers so they can get like the best female to have their babies. I mean, when you look at it in the most
Goes back to sex. It
basic,
does. It really does. It goes back to sex.
So all this money and so that you're able to buy a boat and you're able to like have a private plane, or I don't know what people's dreams are, where you need more and more and more and more all the time, is for reasons that have very, very little to do with us.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
If we could kind of like find our own center, and so helping women, when they to become mothers. Also, like all these, Christians who are like against abortion. You want to be against abortion, like pay motherhood.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they can keep their children.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then coming back to, the women in the workplace, right? And pushing for us to, the modern day feminists pushing for equal pay, pushing for women's rights in the workplace, women at home. I do believe, first of all, that men should be stepping up more too, as far as being able to stay home or take, having to share that whole
Experience.
the experience of being a parent too. As far as women who also don't want to be mothers that are in the workplace too, as far as being in your 20s or 30s, the more maternal stages, right? The ages that you're expected to have the children. Women in that age group, when they go for interviews, are often asked, oh, are you married? Do you have a partner? Do you have children? that motherly instinct that we have, that we're going to want to have children. Maybe not all women want to have children or to be a mother. And then that
But
can
can I
hold
say
us back.
something? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Absolutely, women should choose. They don't have to be mothers. But very often, women don't want to be mothers because of the financial concerns. Because it's a big burden.
Financially.
Their career would suffer. My
Yeah.
career, because I chose not to farm my kid out to caretakers. When my income when I became pregnant and I was unmarried, I chose to keep her. And I was in a very adult world. I had a sex advice column. I was publishing. I wrote for Spin magazine. I was a staff writer. I taught at the university. That all that income kind of went down by, I'm going to say, 70%. Because I just couldn't do all that stuff and have a child.
And have a baby.
And I'm not gonna, in my mind, because I have my own logic. Why keep my daughter and then send her out to strangers to raise?
So that's gonna raise her, yeah.
Who I don't know. I don't know their values. I don't know these women. They're from other cultures. So that I can go out there and continue doing what I was doing before. So what you're saying is exactly because the money is not there, we end up not having children because we're having successful careers. I don't want to lose that. And also, people calculate the cost. It's cost me $500,000, my kid.
Easily.
Birth to now, she's 20. And people,
And it's gonna keep going. I'm a 24-year-old. Yes. And then they get married, and then this, and then it just keeps going. There's an umpteen amount of money they spend.
Yeah, right now it's the most
But what
expensive
if
because I'm
these-
paying tuition. So it's never been so hard.
Of course, tuition.
But what if these jobs that we have, right? What if it didn't have to go away? What if they had more support for the
Exactly.
parents? What if they offer,
Yeah.
so for example, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to give an example, they offer mothers, I don't know if they offer fathers, but either 3 months, 6 months, or a year off. And you can choose what you would like.
Yeah.
And it will be paid leave
Yeah.
for the woman. And her job is not going to be, given away.
Jeopardized, right.
Exactly. Her job isn't going to be jeopardized.
Mhm.
So what if these companies stepped up and offered us more? And for example, it's been found to not cost these companies a penny
Mhm.
to have other people take on these roles while you're
But
away.
I'm not a big fan of corporate. I don't know, maybe corporations.
Oh, me neither.
So
Me neither.
That's
That's
why
why
I
it's self-employed for long
Yeah.
time.
I think it should be the government. I don't think we should leave it up
Right.
to
In Spain, for example, it's paid by the government.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, this
The
is
fucking
an
$3
issue.
or some dollars that they threw away
Yes.
in Afghanistan and now
Right,
that
right.
they threw away in Iraq,
Yeah.
that will pay all the women in the country
Yes.
for new mothers.
Yes.
That's it. And
Education
it creates
too.
better children.
Yeah.
It creates, united family. Unit. And the other thing is the child in post-patriarchy. If we're moving out of patriarchy, and now with DNA testing, it's super simple to find out who's the father. So
Right.
paternity is no longer hard to confirm. You don't need to lock the woman up in the women's quarters and keep her there for life. And surround her with eunuchs so that if there is a baby it's yours. So now really the children belong to the mother. If there is a father there, that's wonderful, and they're a couple and they are both parents and it's better for the children and all of that. But why does the child have this dude's name? The guy came once. He fucking ejaculated once. He had a fucking orgasm.
Yes.
She went through a life change, a body change, 9 months, breastfeeding, everything changes. When you know that, the hormones, you're not the same
Yes.
person.
At all, zero.
Those 9 months and then the first 2 years, I breastfed 2 years. That whole time, hormonally, I was like somebody else.
Your hormones don't settle down.
You're like a mother.
Scientifically. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a huge, commitment that you make as a human that the male human doesn't make, and yet your baby is called after him and his people and his family, and it's like now that we don't need the paternity, paternity confirmed, the only reason we do it is with the assumption that like the father side is going to be the provider.
Right.
But it's no longer true. In most cases, you have to have two-income families. Most people are just not wealthy enough to have the dad, pay for everything. So why is this naming still going on? It's very offensive to me personally, because it like implies ownership.
It does. It really does.
I wish our children would have their own first names and their own last names. But if we don't want to give them a new last name, it should be the mother's last name. But in my utopia, because our last names are our father's last names, who theoretically owned us. I mean, it's just, I would just kind of like rename them first name, last name, and then first name, last name, different, everything.
And go first.
Yeah. Fuck the lineage.
Yeah, fuck the lineage.
You're your own person.
Give them, exactly. Make them them.
Yeah.
Give them the sense from the get-go that you're you. Fine.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, going back to, again, you see how the system is skewed.
Yeah.
So yes, women get alimony. So when the divorce happens, so it encourages divorce in a very backhanded way, if you think about it. If the couple has money, which is a small percentage of this society, smaller and smaller, but in the top percent, she will get paid for being a mom if she divorces.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how fucked up and sick it is. Because that's, how like the legal system is set up. And again, we're talking about, yes, divorce laws are the same all across, but most average families, there isn't enough money for alimony to even exist, or he won't pay it, or it's unenforceable, or So again, for the vast majority of like the working class, it doesn't really make a difference, and that monthly salary to be a mom would be life changing. But I feel that even for everyone, instead of let's say rewarding women when they're no longer part of the couple, you should we should reward them when they are.
When they are, correct.
So anyway, we went a little.
How we get
Having fun. Going to different tangents.
Thinking for yourself matters in all of this
Yeah.
stuff. So, but to go back to practicing, sex is something that's like simple and healthy. Taking classes, right,
Education.
is the easiest way to do it.
Definitely. I think,
And
okay, so
YouTube.
the
And
funny,
podcast.
Yeah.
No more.
Practicing.
well, in the class, so it can be theoretical or practical, right? And it's funny because when I introduce myself or when people ask me what do I do, and I say, oh, I'm a sex educator, the main response I get is, oh, thank God, teenagers really need that. And I think, well, most of us didn't receive that as children or teenagers, so how do you think I'm just talking to teenagers? Why do we think of these teenagers as these crazy horny kids that are just exploring their sexuality? Yes, okay, maybe, but it extends beyond that. So we're kind of in our workshops we give the the classes as professionals. We're sexologists, we're psychologists, we're sex therapists, we're of course sex enthusiasts as well, but it's a professional environment, and I can't imagine how many messages we get on Facebook from people from like Kenya or Indonesia every day looking for girls through our page. They see Sex Academy every day.
That's a
it's
challenge.
part of it. It's a challenge.
And that's part of the education that it's not about doing it.
It's just finding the time to recognize that we need
That education.
and you're right, it's not only teenagers, people.
Most
Adults have no clue, they've lost their ways just by not even giving it time to explore their sexuality. And we talked about it when we texted, dissolving sadness, you're like, well, how can we do this? Well, one of the most natural ways is, releasing serotonin and endorphins. feel better. Why don't we naturally go there? And however that is, just enjoying the time of naturally having that feeling in your body to make you feel better. People are just, they rather take an antidepressant, or they rather go a different route than go into the most basic
And
thing.
then the presence affect your
It's
sexual drive.
ridiculous. It makes you dead. It's the worst
Yeah.
thing ever. I'm so against any of the unnatural stuff at all. Any of the
Yeah.
pills.
But if you have to take it, it's okay
Yeah.
to take
Of
it.
course, if you are
You
right.
take it out of
this
the right,
time
especially.
and just take whatever.
Your mental health
Yeah.
is the most important. I want to say the mental health is as important,
Of
more important
course.
than your sexual health, definitely.
And the thing about it is,
It's
it
the same
piles
thing.
on.
It's the same thing.
It really piles on because we're not taking the time.
Yes.
We're not, and when you mentioned this, physically, chemically, if we're continuously there, our enzymes are not going to produce. They're going to produce cortisol. They're going to produce stress. They're going to block a lot of the serotonin, endorphins, and all of these things that make us feel better. And there is natural ways of doing this, and just taking the time.
Well, that's what you said when you just spoke before, which led us down the path of equal rights and equal pay.
Yeah.
But and maternal pay. Yeah, it's like taking the time rather than being on automatic.
Taking the time.
And that's another thing that I feel has happened in the contemporary world, in the big tech world, is that things are going very fast. And so everyone feels that we're behind, and it's like rush, catch up, figure out what like, oh my god, like 10 more new apps that I should download and join, and
And instant gratification.
right,
Oh, yeah.
instant gratification,
A like
instant
time.
patience, right,
Patience.
yeah. And then also like education is so extremely, compartmentalized. So now people go to college to learn like that one thing. Instead of get like a general education, which should include sexuality.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. And I don't mean just like in elementary. I mean every step, even in college. Sex education in college.
We just started, Sexeducation just started another company called Practitioner, which means the other education. And we offer it for children in primary school, middle school, high school, up until college, teachers, parents, because it doesn't even just involve the kids that need the sex education, it's the parents, it's anyone who comes in contact with a child needs sex education too.
But the point is, it shouldn't have to be private. It should be done in public school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it should be part of the basic curriculum.
Yeah.
And you can bring in, special sex ed people, that teachers.
Right.
That's what they specialize in. Instead now, like the kids fall asleep. They show them like movies with like cartoons of genitals, right?
Or the miracle of life.
Or they're on their phone. No one understands
Yes.
anything. Yeah. And it should be like this conversation.
Definitely.
They should be hearing it from age 5 or 6 until they graduate college. All of those years that are so important, and we as a society have access to those minds that are being formed. Instead of waiting for people to like hit a wall and then look for the sex academy or look for a reiki practitioner or somebody who put them under hypnosis, to be healed.
Let's preventive, let's get out.
Maybe not have so much to heal if we are.
I agree with you, absolutely. This is where we're starting all this. And believe it or not, I'm seeing a lot of young kids.
Really?
6, 7, 8, a lot of teenagers are turmoil right now.
Oh yeah,
Turmoil.
Teenagers, it's terrible.
It is the worst timing right now in the world, and they are, from everything, sexually frustrated too. They just feel like they don't belong in this world at all, and because we're not taking the time. And it ties into everything. Not enough time at home, not enough time, so it goes back to everything, and they're completely lost. Of course, they're gonna, be off center. So I agree with you, and I'm pushing.
So instead of like teaching them, one more math class or
Right.
I don't know, history of like America's,
Like whatever is gonna get recalled and used in your life.
Right, which you forget.
Right, you never really use it.
Yeah, there's so much unnecessary stuff in our education, in our curriculums, that are not even broad-minded. Like, it's not like they're learning philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're learning the classics. It's
Right.
not like they're learning how to think for themselves.
Right.
No, it's just like, intel, like just, information that they're supposed to memorize and retain briefly, take it as and forget.
I agree.
So yeah, I definitely, we should have sex education from the beginning, and that's easier than, educating the parents matters a lot, and that is unfortunately self-education. So
Also,
when, if you're about to be a parent, try to be conscious, try to not become the mother or the father,
Correct.
which is easier said than done because it's very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
You have to deal with all the practical things and the screaming and the give me and the I need, and your life becomes so much more demanding. And so anything you can do quickly, you do to get it out of the way.
Right.
So the stuff that's most important is the stuff that we do thoughtlessly,
Mm-hmm.
the way that our parents did them to us.
Yeah.
Because, so it's basically, no, don't do that. And it's not what we believe in. It's just what we somehow remember. All of a sudden, we're having like these memories of like how our parents talked to us, and we repeat it because we're in a rush. So finding consciousness is much more important than making, an extra like whatever $500 a week.
Exactly.
And getting our priorities clear.
Getting a purpose.
And if that means like moving back to nature,
100%.
right?
I feel like
And
you're
like
saying all of that.
populating rural
Yes.
America, so it's not so fucking Republican.
That's right.
Please, God, yes.
It's just, again, going back into, like you said, into nature, into you, into figuring out. And I believe, I'm actually working on a couple of projects, and I volunteer in a lot of high schools where I do go there, and I spend a lot of time talking about these real subjects that nobody, talks about. And I think we need to have a meditation class. I think we need to have a reality of, how to deal when you cope, how to deal with, when parents are pushing you one way and you feel like it's not another way. And all of these things are real, and it's our generations. This is our future. And nobody wants to take the time because it's just like you say, whatever's going on, and it irks me. Like, it irks my soul. Like, we need to do something about it. If we don't do things like this podcast and things, and just talk about it and push and do it, who else is going to do it? It's incredible.
And then our entertainment is like mind numbing and soul numbing.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So all the big media is only interested in that. Corporations want to make profit, so we're we're bombarded by ads that compel us to just make more money to buy more stuff.
To make us feel good about ourselves so we can do more things, and it's just how it, and it's, the beautiful part is they were made with everything we need, literally.
And like
every one of us.
And like you said earlier, that's seeking that constant instant gratification instead of taking that time for yourself to learn something new, to have that conversation that might help you get through that day, right? Like you were saying, teenagers feel lost, people feel lost. There's that expectation that as when you're an adult, you're going to figure it out, you're going to know everything's going to be fine. And as you get older, you realize we don't figure it out. It's all just like pretending like you've got it all together.
Seriously.
And I'm sick of people pretending that everything is okay.
There's
There's
no
a lot of
money.
shit.
You have no idea how many people come to me that look, they talk to me and lost, like 50 years old. And what have I done? And I'm like, okay, like
You've made it to 50.
you made it to 50, and we're not.
But you know.
And I understand that, like, yes, we evolve, we change our lives, and we're evolving, all the time. But these people are like, I'm like, well, are you happy with your marriage? No, are you happy with this? No, are you? Okay, so we have to why? Because they follow this path of like, this is what it is, this is what feels safe, this is what has been taught to me, and here they are, miserable. And these are people that are well off, and there's all kinds of, there's range of everything, but people that you would think, okay, you have everything, you have money, and this, they're miserable inside. Why? Because it starts from here, when we're young, when we're understanding what is it that the path that we need to take. It is imperative to make this movement. It is just like
I agree with you.
imperative to do this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I see people all the time, just lost, miserable, and they mean it. Like they're here for help. So
But also, because we're stuck in all of those binary, like the gender binary, you know, what girls do, what boys don't do, you know, and we start from the beginning, you know, it's all binary, like victory, failure, and success, you know, which, I mean, who is even defining that stuff? Who's in charge of these definitions? I don't know.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah,
You
where does it come
understand
from?
I don't know.
Where does it start?
It starts from your surroundings and your
Right.
It's never about you.
It's never about you.
about
Yeah.
You need
happiness.
to make it
It's
back to
always
you.
about fucking outside. Like,
I think
you know,
we like to
what
put people in
what
boxes.
other people think.
We love it.
But the emphasis on that, so how else you
Other
play?
people don't really know you. They don't know if you're good or not. They don't
No.
know.
idea.
Even if you have a mansion, they don't know that you are in there, like, you know, drinking yourself to oblivion or whatever.
Yes,
Right.
literally. No, it's just unbelievable. And that's what I tell people. This is where I would go back to you. You are
Yeah,
your
go
only
back to
Bible.
you. Yeah.
Go back to your Bible. It does not matter.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. You're your own Bible.
You are your own Bible. You
There's
have to
so
honor this
much.
from tiny little things. This is how
Right.
you rewire. From in the morning, where you're going to eat,
Mhm.
to what you're going to listen to
Mhm.
where you're going to go. And I always tell people, slow down and listen to that, you know, that intuitive voice, which you have it. Everybody has it versus the other voice. You follow this, you're never going to go wrong. Because it is, but it's, they're just, you know, the ego goes over it. I mean, that's a whole other, you know, conversation we can have for hours, but we need the ego because it's pointing out to us what exactly we need to tweak. But the problem is that they have the ego overcome it because of all the influences of what they think is safe, and they literally just go against themselves all the time. And no wonder people are sad, no wonder people are unfulfilled and just unhappy and in this darkness, you know?
And, you know, feeding the ego and not feeding the soul
Correct.
or the spirit creates this imbalance where, you know, you've achieved, like you say, with people who are wealthy or whatever, healthy and wealthy, and, you know, you've achieved the stuff that your ego has wanted, and you're hollow and sad, you know, because you haven't fed your truth.
The truth, your
Right.
soul.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's a huge imperative that we do more of this, more
Yeah.
of the truth,
Yes.
more honesty, more vulnerability,
More
More out there.
conversations.
more conversations,
Yeah.
acceptance of what your opinions are beautiful and
Yeah.
follow that encouragement. So people can know that, okay, now I'm on
Yeah.
it. I feel this way, I think this way, let me go this way. Beautiful, go do it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
ask yourself questions for yourself. You know,
Right.
like rather than assuming that this is the way things are and I'll do them because that's the way things are, you know, and I'm like a good person and I do what everybody does. You know, ask yourself what serves you or what you think is appropriate or what would make sense for you. You know, kind of like embrace the fact that you're different. I think that it's, you know, and this whole movement with like, you know, non-gender binary and trans and all of that for me is extremely positive because it's just showing us that there is a huge spectrum
Yes.
and we don't necessarily have to fit in any of that, but it just tells us that we don't need to fit in, you know. So like, even for example, like, you know, the gender reveal thing.
Oh my god, I hate that. God, it's awful.
Like,
It's awful.
the little person isn't born
I
yet
know.
and already like completely
Okay,
stereotyped.
sex reveal, great.
Yeah,
It's a boy
sex
or
reveal
girl.
is fine, but
That's
gender
fine.
reveal, and then you get, you know, you expect like
It's
to be
for-
inundated with like pink for the girl and
Forever.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, it's so
and
bad.
then and then it begins
Yeah.
like, you know, from when
You're not even
the
existing yet.
yeah,
Your identity is your first identity is going to be
right, it's censored already.
your gender is already, you know, it's
Yeah.
revealed, it's out there, and we all know you're gonna, you know, get pink every day.
Indoors, and you're gonna be talked down to. and-
Yes,
yeah,
exactly, and you're not gonna have equal pay, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna. We all.
You know, with that little girl voice that you don't have the voice with, and oh my god.
Yes. Oh my gosh, and then also when we talk
moment, take the time to kind of like think before you do pretty much everything. If you can,
Yes.
you know, get in that space. And it's harder, it's easy for us to sit here and say it.
Oh yes,
And I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's hard for anyone. It's the most enlightened
For all of us.
All of us.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's taking more time than normal. And yeah, I'm gonna mess up my fuck up. Yes, but you know what? You need to go back and be like, all right, let's go back next day and let's start doing
Yeah,
it
we
again.
all do
And
things
acknowledge
from-
and to do it because you're human. You're gonna
Of
have bad
course
good
you
days.
do.
You're gonna
Yeah.
mess up. You're gonna do
Yeah.
it. But understanding the big picture of, wait a minute, you know, am I doing this because I feel bad, or am I doing this because I really want to, regardless of who it is? Mom, dad, your daughter, your
Well,
son,
sometimes,
it doesn't
you know,
matter.
we
You
all
know,
have like little trigger points
yeah.
from our child or whatever.
For sure.
Sometimes like one of your triggers gets pushed and you definitely do not think and you just kind of like, you get very reactive. But you know, acknowledging that, and not acknowledging that so you can feel guilty and be guilt-free, but so you can like re-examine it and then handle it in a way that's like
I agree with you,
that's
1000%.
truer to who you are, rather than like you know early childhood triggers that are not something you want,
1000%.
right? So yeah, it's okay to revisit, and it's okay to err so long as we know it. You know, like becoming conscious of the way we live. You know, becoming conscious of all the little tiny choices we make. You know, instead of like kind of like rushing through life. I think it's like how we change from whatever, sadness, loss, anxiety to happiness.
Huge transformation.
And nirvana and bliss, you know.
Exactly.
And like the Buddha, notably, you know, abandoned his family and abandoned the palace and went and sat out under the banyan tree and became enlightened, right? Well, we can't all do that because we gotta also live. So we, you know, that's
Practically.
right. So in practical terms, you have to find that fine line between speaking your truth and being honest and being conscious, and also understanding the language of the culture and of the others, and speaking that and finding a place for both. You know.
Absolutely.
So like when my daughter was little, so you know we went to, I took her to school. I started taking her to school. So the first 2 years, like she, you know, I had a York bag and she came with me everywhere, and I didn't really change my life. You know, I like went and had
Same thing with me.
I had a birth in a jacuzzi. You know, didn't even like know to buy clothes in advance. You know, went with my purse. The midwife gave me like you know an outfit and a car seat. So I didn't quite, you know, but then once she started going to school, I noticed that the little kids would come to our house and they'd be like, oh, there are naked ladies on the walls. Oh, you know, there's like naked stuff, you know, vaginas or what. So I understood that like she would be kind of like marked and censored and judged because of my choices, and I didn't want that to happen to her at all. So I basically changed my career completely, and that's when I went back to like doing art, and I you know worked in a studio instead of the house, and I stopped the sex advice and all that work that I was doing, which now I've come back to because she's grown up. So that's legit. You know, I feel that I did the right thing because I did not want. No, regardless of the cost to me, you know, I didn't want her to grow up in an environment that was so different, that was almost like a cult, you know, or like children of celebrities who feel like they don't fit in, or there's it's not just fame, it's like that difference.
That marks you.
Be like, oh, her mind is sexy.
But when you say this, I don't think you're
So
limited.
I feel that it's important
I
to,
agree.
you know, think what?
I don't think that when you were explaining, you know, changing everything, I wish you didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
wish
have
we
to
didn't have to,
change
of course.
who you were.
Yeah, but I did, and I stand by. You know, I raised her in Miami, and I decided. I mean, I live in New York, but it's a community that's very immigrant based.
Yes.
So it's still very patriarchal. And I know that okay, politically it was wasn't right,
Yeah.
but emotionally it was. You know, I felt that I gave her the chance to be who she is, without any, you know, like of all these influences, so to
Yes.
speak. And I don't, you know, I don't think
But that was still your original, you understand what I'm saying? That was still your original thought and care. It was that change, you weren't forced to do it, your change was induced by your logical thinking. You know what I'm saying? It's not like somebody came by because you're a terrible mother, you should do this. And
no.
because out of your will, you change it. So there's a difference. People are like, how do I know? So I tell people, like, your intuition will tell you. Intuition is very neutral. Your intuition will just say, yes, I'm going to do this or not. And these changes can happen in a variable way to help somebody like our children that we love so much. But it was still part of you. You didn't, like, you know, like, kick and scream, it's because of somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It was a thing that you felt as a growing up. So it's still authentic
Yeah.
to you and your
Totally.
perspective, you know?
Totally.
So
Yes.
that's the difference where
Yeah.
you're not being completely changed. So my daughter is like, my mom does incense and she's out there and like doing all that stuff. And you know, she's doing the reiki and she puts the stuff and she's out there and I'm like, that's beautiful. And she thrives on it, but I can see where you get
that's
there,
different.
that too, you
She
know?
and I did yoga together and chanting
Yeah, and
together
chanting
and
and all that,
learning
yeah.
the fireworks.
So yeah.
But the reason I'm saying this is to say that, it's important to also, it's important to speak both languages, which like you guys do. Just hearing you, I know you do, because you have actually been more conservative than the two of us.
Yeah.
And that's how it's done, in a sense, being able to combine the two. So it's the language of truth, understanding what really makes sense and should be happening and you believe in, but also understanding what the prevalent languages out there and how to exist within it, because that's the only way to change it.
I agree.
Otherwise, my option would have been to just move, and take her to a community where we would fit perfectly, like Santa Barbara.
Right.
Yeah, California,
more
or like, in New
more
York City
liberal,
where I live.
right.
Yeah, and everyone would everybody would be like, down parents would be like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Right.
And those communities exist,
Of course.
right? Or I could homeschool her. There were options. But finding the marriage of the two is the way to reach as many people as possible, and the people who are not exposed to this, are the people we want to reach. So that's why, in the Sex Academy, you're doing so much more talking, and, explaining and sharing and saying, well, we're professionals, and rather than let's get in a circle naked and, put things inside and see how it feels, which is more like the 60s way, but it didn't take. In the general, in the general
I think the reason why we take a more professional approach and stuff like that, our topics are, not considered, all of a sudden, super vanilla all the time, right? We do like BDSM and shibari and swinging and stuff. We do push the boundaries as far as what's considered socially acceptable. But we do like to have people that have either personal experiences in these worlds or consider themselves professionals, because I do feel like when we have the name Sex Academy, right, we're already being shunned so much. We can't promote on social media, we can't do things like that because of just our name, because of the name sex, right? And so we've had to kind of fight to be
what's the situation with getting loans? Because I know people, I know actually women in the business of sex education who are finding that they are not, given financial help by the system.
My boss, Lila, who's the founder of Sex Academy, she's a Danish woman, a mother, everything, and she's struggled, to definitely find that help with, with finding loans. I'm not too sure 100% her financial situation, but
exactly.
it works
There is
almost
the
like
barrier.
judgment.
Yeah.
But hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get there one day.
We're gonna get
We're
there.
working on it.
Get there. Listen, look, here we are.
Yeah.
One day making it
Yeah.
one at a time, you know?
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so much.
sharing.
Thank you
Yes.
for having us. Appreciate it.
So, Maya, Avril,
Yes.
and everyone out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting me as your sex whisperer. And until next week, speak sex.